Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers assault, kidnapping, and littering, and is brought to us by Auditors of America, Last Days of Freedom's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. On Sunday, December 11th, 2022, First Amendment Auditor Jeremiah Payne, who had recently lost his apartment and was living out of a motel with his family, was pushing a shopping cart and walking through a Springfield, Tennessee neighborhood with his wife and 5-year-old daughter when the family accidentally dropped a bag of candy belonging to Mr. Payne's daughter in front of the home of Metro Nashville Police Department Detective William Thorogood, who was off duty. Detective Thorogood, believing that the bag of candy was trash, informed the family that he was a police officer, flashed his badge, and asked them to pick up the bag. The family picked it up, and Mr. Payne asked Detective Thorogood for his name and badge number, then pulled out his phone and began to record.
Stop. Yeah, it's her candy. I apologize. It fell out.
Get on your knees, put your hands behind your back.
What?
Sir?
What the f are you doing?
Sir.
Dude,
Sir.
Let go of my phone, man. Sam! Take my phone. What are you doing?
Hey, we're,
Get back! Get back! Get
hey,
back!
we're homeless.
You ain't a cop, man.
And we're just walking.
Show me your bag.
We're just walking across.
What the f? Man, I didn't do nothing. All I did was ask your name and badge
Am I gonna have a
number.
problem with you?
No.
You smashed my phone,
Okay,
man.
calm down. Calm down.
Can we please just walk off?
Can you please let me go?
No, stop.
No, get
Stop.
the f off me, man.
Stop.
Give me my phone. Give me my
Take your
phone.
phone. Take your phone.
Please
Listen to
stop.
me.
We're just trying to walk across.
The f is wrong with you, dude?
Jamal, let's just go.
Officer Thorogood orders Mr. Payne to put his hands behind his back, then throws him to the ground and puts his knee on his neck, holding him down for several seconds. According to Section 39-13-101 of the Tennessee Code, quote, "A person commits assault who intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly causes bodily injury to another, intentionally or knowingly causes another to reasonably fear imminent bodily injury, or intentionally or knowingly causes physical contact with another, and a reasonable person would regard the contact as extremely offensive or provocative." Likewise, Section 39-13-102 of the Tennessee Code states that, quote, "A person commits aggravated assault who intentionally or knowingly commits an assault as defined in Section 39-13-101, and the assault results in serious bodily injury to another, results in the death of another, involve the use or display of a deadly weapon, or involves strangulation or attempted strangulation." While simple assault is a misdemeanor in Tennessee, aggravated assault is a felony offense. Although it is quite clear that Officer Thorogood's attack on Mr. Payne constituted a misdemeanor assault, as he did not have the probable cause necessary to conduct a lawful arrest, his conduct probably did not rise to the level of aggravated assault under the legal definition in Tennessee. Section 39-11-106 of the Tennessee Code defines bodily injury broadly, as including, quote, "a cut, abrasion, bruise, burn, or disfigurement, and physical pain or temporary illness or impairment of the function of a bodily member, organ, or mental faculty," and serious bodily injury as, quote, "bodily injury that involves a substantial risk of death, protracted unconsciousness, extreme physical pain, protracted or obvious disfigurement, protracted loss or substantial impairment of a function of a bodily member, organ, or mental faculty, or a broken bone of a child who is 12 years of age or less." Here, the only type of serious bodily injury that could potentially apply to this situation is extreme physical pain, but it seems unlikely that a court would determine that Mr. Payne's injuries were sufficiently serious to qualify. In the 1995 case of State versus Sims, the Court of Criminal Appeals of Tennessee found that a victim did not suffer extreme physical pain when she was struck in the face with a pistol one time, resulting in a broken nose, a bruised cheekbone, 2 black eyes, and a cut across the bridge of her nose. In reaching this conclusion, the court reasoned that, quote, "We do not believe that the pain commonly associated with a broken nose is extreme enough to be in the same class as an injury which involves a substantial risk of death, protracted unconsciousness, protracted or permanent disfigurement, or the loss or impairment of the use of a bodily member, organ, or mental faculty." Given this precedent, it seems doubtful that a court would conclude Mr. Payne experienced extreme physical pain in this instance.
Stop, don't go.
Stop.
Stop. Stop.
Look, we're just trying to walk.
I'm not being detained by you.
Doesn't get hit.
Yes, we're just trying to walk across.
Get out of the road so your kid doesn't get hit.
You assaulted me, dude, and it's on video.
I need an officer at 400.
Yes, I was assaulted.
Stop. You get the money. Okay. I don't want your dad to go to jail either. So
He's being very disruptive. I
Oh, because he just attacked me.
Jeremiah, just stop. It's not worth it. Let's just go.
my name's William.
I'm just trying to watch the
Get the away from me. Stay away from me.
I would just like to walk the road.
No, we're leaving.
No, you're not going
You're
anywhere.
not a cop to detain
Wait
me.
for the police officers.
You are not a cop. Hey, he's trying to kidnap me. Help!
Yeah,
Help!
He's trying to say I'm trying to kidnap him now.
He's trying to hold me against my will.
After allowing Mr. Payne to stand up, Officer Thorogood calls 911 and repeatedly informs Mr. Payne that he is detained and cannot leave. In response, Mr. Payne claims that Officer Thorogood is attempting to kidnap him. Under Section 39-13-302 of the Tennessee Code, quote, a person commits the offense of false imprisonment who knowingly removes or confines another unlawfully so as to interfere substantially with the other's liberty. And according to Section 39-13-303, quote, kidnapping is false imprisonment under circumstances exposing the other person to substantial risk of bodily injury. Additionally, Section 39-13-301 explains that, quote, unlawful means, with respect to removal or confinement, one that is accomplished by force, threat, or fraud. Here, it is possible that a court could convict Officer Thorogood of false imprisonment or kidnapping for illegally detaining Mr. Payne, particularly because he did employ force at the beginning of the encounter. However, a court could also determine that Officer Thorogood's actions constituted the offense of official oppression, which Section 39-16-403 of the Tennessee Code defines as, quote, a public servant acting under color of office or employment who intentionally subjects another to mistreatment or to arrest, detention, stop, frisk, halt, search, seizure, dispossession, assessment, or lien when the public servant knows the conduct is unlawful, or intentionally denies or impedes another in the exercise or enjoyment of any right, privilege, power, or immunity when the public servant knows the conduct is unlawful. Likewise, Section 39-16-402 of the Tennessee Code explains the crime of official misconduct, stating that, quote, a public servant commits an offense who, with intent to obtain a benefit or to harm another, intentionally or knowingly commits an act relating to the public servant's office or employment that constitutes an unauthorized exercise of official power, commits an act under color of office or employment that exceeds the public servant's official power, refrains from performing a duty that is imposed by law or that is clearly inherent in the nature of the public servant's office or employment, violates a law relating to the public servant's office or employment, or receives any benefit not otherwise authorized by law. Based on Officer Thorogood's physical attack and baseless detention of Mr. Payne, there are certainly arguments to be made that he committed all of these offenses.
I live in this house right here, off-duty Metro. They're coming through and they threw trash in another person's yard, and then they threw trash in my yard. So I confronted him. I was actually being really nice to him and his wife and asked him to just pick it up and go. And then he starts filming me and yelling at me. So I approached him and we got in a little tussle.
It's all on video, don't lie, because they're going to see it.
It's all on video. I don't want to prosecute or anything like that. I really just wanted to leave. I ain't trying to turn this into like a YouTube thing or, whatever. He seems like a good guy. What's that?
Ask them, they know who I am.
He does? Alright. Is it like a website they use or something? Okay. Alright. Well, it is what it is. Just let him do it. But,
If you want to go back in your driveway, I'll talk to him.
Yeah. Alright, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
All because I pulled my phone out and asked him for his name and badge number.
I'm not joking.
And
He said
you
he
can
was
see
a
on the
cop.
video, he charges at me, throws me to the ground.
He said
right there
you're
in
under
their
arrest.
driveway.
I'm putting you in handcuffs. Guy in Penn said he was going to have him arrested and taken to jail. And I'm like,
So I want to
for
press
what?
charges on him. I have it on video.
Is he really a
Would you
cop?
like to see it?
And I don't think you can.
Yes, sir. If I can just go in the car again.
Yeah, we were coming from Walmart.
I'm just trying to go to the grocery store.
Sorry, I'm
if
kind of
it's
shaky
never
because I was just,
not excitement. I swear.
You're fine, you don't have to apologize.
all because I pulled out my phone and said, "What if you're a cop? What is your name and badge number?"
All right.
So I want to file charges.
Just sit tight, okay? Just stand over here. If you guys want to grab your stuff, you can bring it over here. He's got the whole thing on video.
Of what?
Jeremiah was in the street. He came over and said, "Put your hands behind your back." You can see his phone get tossed. But they weren't on his property when he did that. They were in the middle of the street. And it's on video. He literally attacked him. And I don't know why, what he thinks he can go about arresting people for no reason.
I mean, I'm going to believe that,
I'm just saying that being that it's on video, we're going to have a problem here being who he is too. Cop or not, it's recorded. Well, yes he does. He's a cop. These guys weren't on his property at the time that he just attacked them.
I don't blame him.
Listen, regardless, he should know if you're being recorded, it's probably going to go somewhere, and they weren't on your property when you just attacked them.
I'm gonna get out of here.
Officers Ricardo Brown and Alyssa Gianantonio of the Springfield Police Department respond to Officer Thorogood's call, and eventually, Officer Begley also arrives on the scene. Officer Gianantonio explains the situation to him, and despite the fact that Mr. Payne has the incident on video, Officer Begley says he believes Officer Thorogood over Mr. Payne. Officer Gianantonio reminds him that Officer Thorogood attacked Mr. Payne on a public street and has it all on video, and Officer Begley decides to leave the scene.
Can you go back to the beginning? I know you said you saw him walking.
So he was
here.
they left trash on the corner house, pushed the cart around here. I was in my kitchen area. And they threw a giant bag of trash right here in my front yard. So I came out and said, hey guys, police, I need you to pick up the trash and I need you to leave the neighborhood. Came over and they gave me a bunch of lip, so that's when I showed my badge and I said, guys, I'm police, I need you to get out. That's when he started filming me and you guys picked up from there. I'd like to charge him or prosecute him at this point if he wants to make a big deal, but I really just want him to leave the neighborhood.
They're allowed to be walking on the public road. I mean, it's not like a gated community.
Yeah, but it's littering is a crime too. Yeah, I know. He's homeless, he gets his right, but...
Officer Thorogood states he'd like to prosecute Mr. Payne if he wants to, quote, make a big deal about it, although he really just wants him to leave the neighborhood. And when Officer Gianantonio points out that Mr. Payne and his family are allowed to be on a public street, Officer Thorogood argues that littering is also a crime. Under Section 39-14-405 of the Tennessee Code, quote, a person commits criminal trespass if the person enters or remains on property or any portion of property without the consent of the owner. According to the official property lines, as shown on the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury's website, Officer Thorogood has no ownership interest in the streets, which, unsurprisingly, appear to be public property. Therefore, Mr. Payne and his family were well within their rights to walk on the street, and did not have to comply with Officer Thorogood's demands that they leave the neighborhood simply because he did not want them there. As for Officer Thorogood's argument about littering, according to Section 39-14-502 of the Tennessee Code, quote, a person commits littering who knowingly places, drops, or throws litter on any public or private property without permission and does not immediately remove it. Although mitigated criminal littering, which Section 39-14-503 of the Tennessee Code defines as, quote, littering in an amount less than or equal to 5 pounds in weight or 7 1/2 cubic feet in volume, is a Class B misdemeanor. Here, not only did Mr. Payne and his family unknowingly drop the bag of candy, they immediately picked it up. Accordingly, a court would presumably conclude that there were no viable charges to pursue against Mr. Payne, and that Officer Thorogood did not even have arguable probable cause for the arrest he attempted on Mr. Payne earlier in this encounter.
Do you have an ID on you, Shay?
No, I can go get it, but I can give you my info if you want to.
Hey, so I guess he's gonna do the report, but he went and attacked this guy when he wasn't even on his property. Like, threw him to the ground and everything, and it's all on video. You see him leave his driveway and go into the street and then attack Jeremiah. Yeah, it's a problem. And he shows his badge and says, I'm a cop and everything. And he was trying to arrest him in the middle of the street. The whole camera, like, starts shaking and crap. His daughter's screaming and crying, and he said he had his knee on the back of his neck. And he wants to prosecute, and I don't blame him, because he literally told us I was trying to detain him, but I didn't have cuffs on me. That's what he said.
No, already. We're just going to do a report for this. We'll make sure to put everything that he said, that he dropped trash in your yard. You did announce yourself as an on-duty officer.
I think I can talk with him. I think if you want to talk with him.
If you want to talk with him, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to try to talk to him from again and see if he can probably just let it go, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
While Officer Gianantonio explains to a higher-ranking officer on the phone that she may need to make an arrest if Officer Brown fails to do so, Officer Brown tells Officer Thorogood that he will file a report and that they can both talk to Mr. Payne to see if he's willing to, quote-unquote, let it go.
Is your body cam going?
Yes. Okay. Jeremiah, Detective William Thorogood with Metro Police. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I'm not trying to hurt you. Don't want to scare you. I'm really sorry for the confrontation I had in front of your child. Okay? I feel really bad about that. And I just want to apologize to you. So I am sorry for upsetting your kid, especially around the holiday season. So
Yeah, because she's never going to forget that now, and she's going to look at cops as pieces because of you.
you're absolutely right. I'm taking that into consideration. Let me just swallow my pride here and say I apologize for upsetting you and your family. Okay?
It's
Okay,
hardly
I just didn't like the litter in my yard. That's
Yeah,
all.
it's
That's
really-
all.
She didn't mean to drop it, but to
It really is
go
a
to that
bad thing.
extent, because I pulled out my phone and asked you for your name and badge number, really, Come on now. That's being. I get that.
No, he's right.
But that's being a tyrant.
I'll extend my hand to you if you're man enough to shake it.
Oh, I'm man enough to shake your hand.
Is it alright if we leave it at that, sir? Or?
Yeah. I'm still going to post the video, though. I mean,
That's your legal right. I'm not going to stop you from doing that.
Yes, sir.
After Officer Thorogood apologizes, Mr. Payne agrees not to pursue charges, and he and his family continue on their way. Later, in an interview with James Freeman's YouTube channel, which has also covered this interaction, Mr. Payne alleged that after he stopped filming, Officer Thorogood put $80 in cash in his pocket and asked him not to post the video. However, Mr. Payne still decided to post the video that same day and has since posted several update videos to his YouTube channel. On Monday, December 12th, the day after the encounter, Officer Thorogood self-reported the incident to his supervisor, and he was decommissioned and placed under administrative investigation as a result. As of the date of this episode, no further updates on this investigation have become available. 2 days after the incident, Mr. Payne went to the DA's office to initiate criminal charges. On January 18th, 2023, a grand jury heard the case against Officer Thorogood for 2 counts of felony aggravated assault, but declined to indict on both charges. According to an update video posted on his YouTube channel, Mr. Payne intends to pursue civil legal action against the Springfield and Nashville police departments. Overall, Officer Thorogood gets an F for attempting to arrest Mr. Payne for asking for his name and badge number and using excessive force to do so, demonstrating a blatant disregard for Mr. Payne's constitutional rights and physical safety, and continuing to argue that Mr. Payne had done something wrong and that he was the one who could determine whether or not to prosecute. Although Officer Thorogood apologized to Mr. Payne for, quote, upsetting his family, he only did so once the other officers informed him that Mr. Payne was a First Amendment auditor with an active YouTube channel, and it seems clear that Officer Thorogood was simply attempting to cover up his own actions. Officer John Antonio gets an A, because although I'm not certain that she would have acted in the same manner if Mr. Payne had not captured the encounter on camera, in this situation, she argued to uphold the law based on the evidence, and even stood up to several officers who attempted to take Officer Thorogood's side. Now, while I cannot know and judge her motives, her action in this situation showed that she was willing to do the right thing, even if it was just because the incident had been captured on camera. Officer Brown gets a B-, because although he maintained a professional demeanor throughout the encounter, he appeared to be reluctant to arrest Officer Thorogood and actively sought to dissuade Mr. Payne from filing charges. While I'm often in favor of reaching amicable solutions without resorting to unnecessary criminal intervention, in this situation, Officer Brown's actions seemed more like an effort to protect a fellow officer who had just demonstrated a dangerous propensity for the use of excessive force and the abuse of his power. And as a law enforcement officer himself, I believe that Officer Brown had a duty to ensure that Officer Thorogood was held accountable for his unconstitutional and unlawful actions. Mr. Payne gets an A for standing up for himself and his family, capturing the interaction on camera, and taking appropriate legal action after the encounter. While Mr. Payne did lose his temper when talking with Officer Thorogood, this is more than understandable, as he had just been physically attacked, and he was well within his constitutional rights to express his dissent strongly. I commend Mr. Payne for attempting to hold Officer Thorogood accountable, and I would encourage him to continue his efforts to pursue a civil lawsuit. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.
Ah, ah, ah.